In the headlines, the Alternative People's Party calls for an end to racism in Dominica and around the world. A message to homeowners to avoid getting caught unprepared this hurricane season. And the COVID-19 pandemic forces the Education Trust Fund to cancel its main fundraising events this year. I'm Andrea Louis with the Channel 5 News. Back with the details after this.
Corner, yay, and in our hearts we are with you. We are so grateful for all you do. We want to say thank you, 'cause when we need you, you're always there, risking it all to keep us safe. You are our heroes, so we sing the song for you. No matter the time, you're by our side to always make sure we are secure. Our hearts are filled with thanks, 'cause you give your all and more. So we send in our love from Sagicor. Yes, Sagicor, sending our love to you.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Thank you for staying with us. First up, Chairman of the Emergency Shelter Subcommittee of NEPO believes the Shelter Manager's Manual published last year will be useful despite the modifications brought about by COVID-19. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, played an integral role in putting together the Emergency Shelters Manager Manual, the first of its kind, to guide shelter managers during the hurricane season. With the advent of COVID-19, Chairman of the NEPO Subcommittee for Emergency Shelters and Local Government Commissioner Glenroy Toussaint says while the new manual does not speak directly to such a situation, there is useful information in there which can be used by shelter managers while carrying out their duties.
Last year we introduced an emergency shelter management manual that sort of provide the guidance as far as the management and administration of the shelters are concerned. Importantly, quite a bit of the information in there speaks to hygiene, general good hygiene practices, and so that will be of significance as we seek to combat this COVID-19, that pandemic that is almost a plague to us. But certainly the manual is speaking in some respect to ensuring that the frequency of the cleaning of the shelters, ensuring good hygiene practices as far as the management of the shelters are concerned.
Toussaint believes the wider public should familiarize themselves with the contents of the manual during the 2020 hurricane season.
Quite a bit of that manual is relevant even with COVID-19. So certainly that will be used extensively. There are certain sections, and we're going to point some of those sections and highlight them to our shelter managers and the general public, because I believe that the general public ought to know of some of the guidelines that are in the emergency shelter manual as they themselves seek to come to the shelters to ensure that they ride whatever system that may impact us.
In other top stories, Dominicans told to ensure they are well prepared for what is expected to be an above-average hurricane season this year. Prime Minister Skerrit says in addition to the measures taken by government, there are certain responsibilities that communities and homeowners should not neglect.
Your insurance, you have to pay attention to your insurance. All of us, myself included, you know, I never knew that I was underinsured until Hurricane Maria hit. and I didn't get much damage, but I claimed the insurance as I was allowed to and qualified to do, but they told me I was underinsured. And I've heard these stories from all of you, all of us here, in Dominica underinsured. So go through your insurance policy with a fine-tooth comb. You ensure that the value of your property, that's what you've insured, so that if you're hit, God forbid, you can get your full insurance payout and you can cover your home and fix your home by yourself with your insurance money.
As a mitigation measure, government is trying something new this year in utilizing the efforts of hundreds of interns under the National Employment Program, NEP.
We are redirecting them to assist with hurricane preparedness efforts. So they will be in the villages, in the communities, cutting the overhangs, cleaning drains, unblocking culverts, going into the homes of the most vulnerable, the senior citizens, the sick and shut in, and to assist with eliminating the hazards or mitigating against the hazards in those communities. Doing every little thing that we possibly can and should do to mitigate against the hazards and eliminate them where possible.
Heading into the hurricane season, Mr. Skerritt wants Dominicans to prepare as best as they can and to collaborate with the National Emergency Planning Organization, NEPO, of which he is chairman. On to police news. Police say they are investigating a road collision which has led to the death of Wayne Jr. Orley of Soufriere. Orley, who was critically injured in an accident last week, died on Monday after French doctors failed to save his life.
The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force is continuing investigations into a road traffic collision which resulted in the death of Wayne Jr. Orley, male adult of Soufriere. On Tuesday, 9th June 2020, about 9:40 a.m., Wayne Jr. Orley was riding a black Honda motor scooter registration number PR766 in a northerly direction along the Edward Oliver Leblanc Highway through Pottersville. On his arrival on a certain area of that road, Wayne Jr. Orley collided with a pedestrian named Jefferson Simon, male adult of Granby. He then lost control of the motor scooter and fell to the ground. Both individuals received bodily injuries and were transported by ambulance to the Accident and Emergency Department of the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, where they were medically treated and admitted. Wayne was admitted to the intensive care unit. On Thursday, 11th June 2020, he was airlifted to Martinique to the Centre Hospitalier Universitaire de Martinique to undergo life-saving neurosurgery, but his condition was too severe to operate. On Sunday, 14th June 2020, he was airlifted back to Dominica and admitted to the intensive care unit at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. On Monday, 15th June 2020, Wayne Jr. Orley succumbed to his injuries and was officially pronounced dead by a medical doctor. His body was transported to the Lyndhurst Funeral Home, awaiting a post-mortem examination.
On to housing matters. Residents of Petit Savan who have not yet received homes in the Bellevue-Chopin resettlement site are due to have this issue rectified this week. Prime Minister Skerritt said these families were due to receive their keys on Wednesday. Government has announced its intention to stop payment of rental facilities for Petit Savan families in an effort to regularize the situation. The Prime Minister said government wanted to ensure that they were in fact paying for the rent of those for whom the effort was intended. There appears to be a concern that some of those for whom rent is being paid do not necessarily live in those homes.
I dare say there were some families who we gave homes, who we've been paying rents for many years. They occupy the homes in Bellevue, but they left somebody at the house that are renting, and so they're in the house in Bellevue-Chopin and we've been paying rent because they left a family member and so on. So we had to find a way of regularizing it, and the government felt the best way to go about addressing this is to just cut the rent for everybody and let people come back to report to us and say, yes, I haven't gotten a home, I am renting, and we shall address that issue. So I'm aware of that, my friend.
A call for an end to racism both in Dominica and around the world. Julian Morris tells us more.
That's the message from the Alternative People's Party as the world continues to react to the public killing of African-American U.S. citizen George Floyd last month. Several individuals and groups are lobbying for the better treatment of those considered minority races around the world, and Dominica is no exception. The Alternative People's Party says examples of racism are evident in Dominica and call for an end to all forms of racism.
The Alternative People's Party calls for a halt of racism with all its extensions. The wanton control of a people, perpetuated by hatred, division, and indifference, are as terrible as racism itself, if not worse. People cannot thrive where prejudices exist, and I believe that there is need for coast-to-coast action against such prejudicial and racial attitudes.
The protests sparked by George Floyd's murder have also led to people demanding police reform. The APP believes justice is necessary as the world is on the brink of some much-needed change.
We pray that the relatives of Mr. Floyd find peace and comfort through their period of grief. But most importantly, we hope that justice for Mr. Floyd is swift. The words of Dr. King, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, could not be more appropriate today, especially since there are several injustices on our shores. If nothing else, let the death of George Floyd take us to the place where we take a conscious and very sober look at our own actions as people against our own people.
You're watching the Channel 5 News. Stay tuned for more after the break.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited Flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD. All for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
Welcome back. A significant blow to fundraising efforts of the Education Trust Fund. Julian Morris explains.
The Education Trust Fund, established in the 1980s, provides financial assistance to secondary school children in the form of transportation, school fees, and CXC fees. The fund relies heavily on donations from businesses, individuals, and organizations to keep supporting children in need. Chairman of the Education Trust Fund, Willie Favre, says the main fundraising event for this year have been cancelled due to the COVID-19 outbreak.
We had planned to have our yearly Schools Dollar Day or Contribution Day on the 27th of March. And by that time, COVID was upon us, so that had to be put off. Then we also had planned to have a regular radiothon somewhere late June or early July this year. So that's off also. So two major fundraising efforts this year have had to be cancelled. So that means that our income flow has been affected.
In 2018, the fund opted not to ask the private sector for donations as businesses were recuperating from the impact of Hurricane Maria the year before. This year, the fund will also refrain from asking the private sector for donations due to the impact on the business sector from the pandemic.
I don't think it is fair right now to approach the private sector because everybody has lost revenue somehow. So we don't want to put too much pressure on them. At the moment, we are capable of meeting our expenses. Of course, the government always provides a subvention every year. So we can depend on that for now. So let's wait until things improve, and then we will do our regular solicitation and our fundraising perhaps by next year.
On average, the Education Trust Fund raises almost $100,000 locally, including that of government's $50,000 subvention. Regardless of the amount raised, when the budget is made, there can be tweaking to the distribution of funds.
So generally, yes, the funds that we raise locally and what we get from overseas, we are able to meet our expenses. But in any case, I mean, when we do a budget, if the funds that we have are not sufficient, we'll have to cut back on our expenditure, right? So we might have to cut back on the transportation allowance and the number of children we give assistance for CXC, or the amount that we pay for CXC. As a matter of fact, after Hurricane Maria, we actually increased the assistance for CXC examinations. We increased it for that year only, right? Because we recognize that people had lost a lot of their money.
And the Prime Minister Skerrit has explained why it was important to keep the construction sector open and to do so responsibly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Construction continues in the health sector in terms of the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, the Maricotte Hospital and the Health Center, as well as housing in various parts of the country. By the end of this week, it is anticipated that over 250 families will enter new homes under government's housing program. 122 families in La Plaine and Dalis were due to receive keys to new homes on Thursday. That's in addition to 64 families who received the keys on Wednesday.
We allow construction to continue because we believe that we could have done so responsibly, and we did so responsibly. And I want to thank all of the contractors for their understanding and following the protocols. We could not stop the construction of homes because we're in a hurricane season was approaching. We could not stop the construction of the hospitals because hospitals are critical to our hurricane preparedness. We could not stop the construction of the health centers because health centers are critical to our preparedness for the hurricane season, but very importantly, if we're hit, that we have facilities where people can shelter and where people can get the services and the care that they need. So the health center in Vegas is basically completed. We shall furnish it and equip it very soon in the next few weeks.
Helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
To end the news, the headlines again. The Alternative People's Party calls for an end to racism in Dominica and around the world. A message to homeowners to avoid getting caught unprepared this hurricane season. And the COVID-19 pandemic forces the Education Trust Fund to cancel its main fundraising events this year. Feel free to access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis. And to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Join us next time.